with the Rabbi. That's me. I got my coffee, of course. I have my cookie, kinda. But if I were a rich man, yaddy daddy 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 dum, all day long I'd sit and sing a very rich man's song. Hey, I wouldn't have, the whole song. Fiddler on the Roof. Everybody that's half brother knows Fiddler on the Roof. But I think in the song Fiddler on the Roof, okay, about the rich man, he finally gets down to what real treasure and real wealth looks like. He starts talking about sitting by the eastern wall and studying with the sages. That's wealth. But I'd like to ask, where do you put your treasure? And don't tell me First National Bank, because, that's too easy. But let me read the text this morning. And this comes from the book of Matthew, chapter 6, starting in verse 19. Lay up for yourself treasures. Starting all over again. Do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. I thought about this. The line says, where your heart is, there your treasure will be also. And so whatever is really close to your heart, whatever is truly important to you, that's where your heart is. You take the guy who's just in love with his car or in love with his motorcycle or whatever, and he's out there and he's polishing that baby. I mean, he's got it shiny and looking good. Only use premium gas, even at this price, But the thing is, that's where his treasure is. That's what's important to him. And I think that's okay to a certain point, until that treasure becomes more important than the people in his life. That's where the problem begins. Now, before I begin, I love my cookies. I cherish them, but they are only tangible goods. Here for a moment, gone the next. But some people, their treasure is their home, and so they spend all the time, energy, sprucing and fixing and polishing and shining and, just marvelous, beautiful properties. Or if they got the funds, they can always pay to have somebody do it. But the interesting thing about a treasure is most people want to do it themselves. The hardest working people on the planet are those who have a treasure in the bank. They want to see that treasure grow. And so they do time, double time, overtime, time and a half, whatever it is. And their treasure prospers. But please let me point out just for a moment the whole of the verse. It says, do not lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in. I want to talk about the moth, rust, and the thieves. Moths are like inflation in some ways. They eat away at it. They destroy the fabric of it. And if you've ever had a real moth issue, people use the mothballs. They still make those things. But the idea was to keep the moth away from those really important fine items. And the idea is to protect them so something doesn't come and eat at them. And unfortunately, our treasures on earth, there's always someone or something trying to eat at it, trying to take a little bite, take a little piece. And before you know it, they destroy the whole fabric of the garment or the whole fabric of the treasure. We must be careful of moths, those things which eat away at our lives, and spiritually speaking, moths, including doctrines that have no real value. I used to talk doctrine with a friend of mine, and we'd have wonderful conversations. Then he asked me the question, on this subject, would anybody get saved? And most of the time he was right. And no, it was interesting. It was good. It was for our education and whatever. But it wasn't a salvation issue. You have to be careful. Non-salvation issues becoming moths that eat at relationships or eat at theology. Are you following me so far? Because the next one's even better. The moths eat and rust destroys. Rust is also a form of eating away at a finished product. But rust is something that takes place when it's not used. You know, if you don't drive your car or your motorcycle or whatever, your lawnmower, and it just sits out in the rain and the weather, what happens? Rust builds up, and then it locks it up. Rust tells me that something is not being used. And because it was supposed to be used, not using it is actually a form of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, it'll come to me in a moment. But the whole thing is that when it's supposed to be used, it's not, it'll seize up, become of no value to you. You take an engine of a car. Yes, it'll take quite a while, but that engine can seize because of rust. Because it was neglected. When we don't use, that was the word I was looking for, when we don't use some of our gifts, our talents in the Lord, they become rusty. And that rust is because of neglect, non-use. You know, you can have a gift or a skill for a moment. Let me point that out. You can be an artist, but you don't paint, you don't draw, you don't practice your art. You will become rusty until finally it just seizes up. Spiritual gifts. If we don't put ourselves in a position for ministry, those spiritual gifts will begin to rust and cause the whole machinery of ministry to seize up. I got news for you. You have to use it or lose it. And that's what rust does. It leaves it intact and yet allows it to deteriorate. Okay, one day at a time. Once again, like an item left out in the rain or in the weather, it doesn't do well because it was not used, it was neglected. How much of the treasure in your life has been neglected? Maybe wife or children or fellowship or friendships or, those type of things, when neglected, become rust. And it builds up until eventually it locks up. Are you following me so far? I'm sure you are. You're very smart people. So, the third one were thieves. Here's the problem with having treasure. Everybody wants it. And some will try to steal it. And so, let's say my next door neighbor is known to have beautiful items of gold. And by the way, my neighbors don't have any gold. I can attest to that. Especially the one guy that lives next door, man, he's poorer than dirt. He's poorer than I am. So anyway, the thing about treasure that's unique is the fact that everybody wants or they want to take it. And in the natural world, we have bank robberies, we have smash and grabs in jewelry stores. And it's amazing what people will steal. And right now, in today's world, anything is not nailed down. If you don't have a safe in your house, you better get one, because it's only a matter of, not if, it's a matter of when someone comes looking for your treasure. Now, the best tool, quite frankly, is a German Shepherd, as far as the natural world goes. But what about your spiritual stuff, your spiritual life? Do you let thieves steal that? It's not uncommon. I've seen people let their spiritual life be stolen because the job needed someone an extra day, which becomes another extra day. And for you've lost Shabbat altogether. You're scratching your head going, what happened? What happened? And now you've also created a precedent in which your employer might consider you a person for every Saturday or every Shabbat. How else can we have our spiritual life stolen from us? We have it stolen also when we indulge in ridiculous conversation with those who just want to derail you spiritually. There's no value, as the scripture says, that those who rebuke a scoffer only bring shame to themselves. That's a loss of treasure. One of the things still, opportunities that others might want to capitalize on. Well, I know you don't work on Saturday, so let's go. That becomes a matter of choice. In fact, most spiritual theft is always going to be a matter of choice. Now, if I go back to the beginning, if I let my Bible sit on the shelf long enough, the moths will come and eat it. If I leave it out in the weather will come and cause it to rust. If I fail to use it, I have no value in it. I see all these storage places, going up, and there just doesn't seem to be enough storage buildings available. You can go to a place that's 300 lockers, and every one of them is full. I have a theory about that. If you have something in storage for more than 6 months, you might as well have a garage sale. Because if it was important to you, it might have once been important, but it's important to you right now, you'd have it. So if you got a storage locker full of junk that's been there more than 6 months, have a garage sale. And spiritually, when you hold on to issues and anger and frustration, and all this is shoved in your spiritual storage locker, get rid of it. It has no value. But it has no value. So you got the problem with the moths, you got the problem with the rust, and you got the problem with thieves. And quite frankly, things somebody else deemed to be important might actually be a theft to you spiritually. If it interrupts your prayer time, your study time, your devotion time, your synagogue time, your church time, your Bible study time. Now, I'm going to add one more to this whole list. Treasures that are not capitalized on. Here it is. If you attend a church, a synagogue, or a parish, you don't do a midweek service of some sort, you're not capitalizing on the treasures that's right in front of you. We must have more than just Sunday or Shabbos in order to grow in the Lord. All that treasure is laid out before you, and you're not picking any of it up. That might be the road to poverty. But let me go ahead and just conclude with this. Your church, your parish, your synagogue, your Bible study group, that's where your treasure should be. So, come alongside and support your church, your synagogue, your parish, or your group, whatever it is. Okay? Come alongside and be a blessing. Support it financially and also with time. And speaking of financially, the bookkeeper tells me I need to inform you that we're not making it. So if you would, please hit that donate button and keep our programs going. We want to do more than just what we're doing now. We want to reach way out, and we can't do it with limited resources. Please make a blessing. Ask. But Thursday night, here's the topic: death, dying, and the world to come. You may not know what you think you know. And you'll know a lot more if you watch the program. But right now, I'm going to let you go. And this has been a pleasure today, as usual. I've had my cookie, I had my coffee, and now I've got to go to work, just like everybody else. Got to go make some treasure and store it up in heaven.